How can I grasp something so big, so huge as the concept of God? I mean, if there is a God, then this God is so big and so incomprehensible that how could I begin to wrap my mind around Him? How small would I have to make God before I could begin to grasp Him? Or perhaps the better question is, how small would God have to make Himself before I could begin to understand Him? About 10 years ago, I was refereeing high school football, and I remember standing on the field waiting for our game to start. It was a really brilliant, sunny day. And as I stood in the end zone waiting for the opening kickoff, I felt this sharp pain in my left eye. I remember rubbing my eye with my fist and wondering what was going on. And when I opened my eyes again, I could see what seemed to be threads hanging from the peak of my cap. I can still remember standing on that field, reaching out and trying to pull those threads off. Every time I closed my fingers on what I thought were these black spots and threads in front of me, I kept coming up empty-handed. I came to understand that what I was seeing was floaters. It was debris inside of my eye. And what I was seeing was a shadow or a representation, an image of what was real inside of my eye. But what I was reaching out for really wasn't there tangibly. And that's how I feel about God many times. I have these moments when I can see the evidence of His existence, when I'm convinced that He's real. But when I reach out to try to grab Him and find some tangible substance to grab hold of, I keep coming up empty-handed. The truth is that there would be no way that you or I could know this invisible, immaterial God unless He chooses, first of all, to reveal Himself to us. And He has. He's done it in His creation, and when I choose to, I can see the evidence of the existence of God all around me in the world in which I live. He's there. And He's done so in the words of Scripture, in the words of the history of the Bible, in the words of the prophets and the poets. God has revealed His character and His purposes and His plans for His universe there in Scripture. But the greatest self-disclosure of all is when God chose to reveal Himself in His Son Jesus Christ. As John puts it in his Gospel, God, the Word, put on flesh and blood and moved into our neighborhood. And God, in the person of Jesus Christ, God clothed with flesh and blood, reveals to us, pulls back the curtain so that God discloses who He is to us in a form that every one of us can understand. God, with flesh on, Jesus Christ, took that first step and discloses Himself to us so that we might know Him. Knowing Him is one thing, and to wrap our heads around this concept of being able to understand the Creator of the universe. But how much more so is it hard to grasp the idea of loving this God? Or even that He would want to love us, that this immense, incomprehensible, invisible, transcendent God could or would want to love me, or that I could in return be in this love relationship with Him in some kind of deepening, growing, maturing relationship of love with the Creator of the universe. Erich Fromm, the Jewish philosopher and psychologist, said that to love means to commit oneself without guarantee, to give oneself completely in the hope that our love will produce love in the loved person. What if loving God means to believe that God has committed Himself to us without guarantee, that He has given Himself completely to us in the person of His Son, Jesus Christ, and demonstrated that love to us in the hope that His love for us will produce love in us for Him. That He chose to make Himself, as the psalmist puts it, a little lower than the angels, that God confined Himself to the prison of flesh and blood and bones. He became fully human and yet remained fully God. That God came to this earth in the person of Jesus Christ, and in the person of Jesus Christ demonstrated just how immense His love and passionate His love for us is. Then loving God becomes as simple as responding to that love. Letting His love demonstrated to us produce love in us for Him. What if the act of loving God is as simple as responding to that idea?